Hello and welcome back to Raging Loop. In the last episode, we got an offer, I guess. I mean, it wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement. That. Wait, why have I forgotten her name? The priestess lady. I mean, it's been like 2 weeks, but it's not been that long. Why do I not remember her name? Rikako. That was her name. She will help us escape, which is something that we, at this current moment, believe is not possible. And we've tried once in our very first attempt of making it out of this whole mess alive. Well, I guess technically it wasn't the first attempt. Technically, in the first attempt, we died immediately. But on our first real attempt, we tried escaping, and we couldn't. We just were caught in a mist and then eventually died. So, it's either something where she's going to make a promise that she can't keep, where she just says it like, I don't know, I believe we can do it, or whatever, or she knows more about this than we do, in some way, shape, or form at least, and she might actually be capable of helping us escape, which, I don't know, it's going to be interesting, we'll see. That actually sounded like she knew of a way to escape this place. It did. I wanted to ask about it. I had to, even. Despite feeling that way, though. Please don't say it. I refused. And I knew full well what that meant for her. Even though you are as good as deceased? Am I now? No, but it will surely happen if you continue this. Rikako, do you have any other dark secrets? Huh? She stared at me in bewilderment. You always knew that you could help someone run away if you discarded yourself and your feelings. However, you didn't know if you could go through with that, right? You didn't know if you should throw away your duty as an Uematsu and save someone, or stay in Yasumizu until the end and keep being an Uematsu. After a lot of inner conflict, you decided that letting me escape was the right thing to do, and that you wanted it too. You wanted to make me believe that it doesn't matter what happens to you as long as I'm alright. I don't like that. Man, this was fun. I'm gonna play this by my own rules. It was fun and she was just lovable. Sorry. That's why I want to change the rules. How about this? If you cut it out with the unpleasant secrets, the man called Haruaki Fusashi will trust Rikako Uematsu. Seriously lovable. I will survive for Rikako Uematsu's sake, while you will survive for Haruaki Fusashi's sake. And if we both survive, you can ask Haruaki Fusashi for whatever you want, and I can do the same with Rikako Uematsu. Willing to gamble on that? Sounds way more fun, don't you think? Rikako was trembling. Her face was all red, her eyes were full of tears, and her shoulders were shivering. This might be a foolish misunderstanding of mine, but do you mean that, I wasn't rude enough to force her to say it. Instead of waiting, I just embraced her. I'm not gonna abandon you and run away. That would mean letting go of such a tasty-looking woman. Haruaki, what are you saying? It'd be one hell of a waste. So please survive. Well, are you taking the bet? I felt her heated breath on me. It seemed to penetrate my shirt. No. No, you must flee. You're adorable. So much that I wanted to take her right then and there. But the rest will have to wait for later. No, now. I'll have you ask that again when the bet's won. That alright with you, Rikako? I tightened my embrace a little. Eventually, she nodded, sealing the wager. Good night. You too. Good night. It's a battle, I shouted, and she responded with a huh? The flirting continued for a bit, and then we parted ways. Alright. With that out of the way, I had to make sure she kept up her side of things this time. Now, who to choose today? The situation was completely unlike yesterday. Takumi was in an even more critical position than before. It reminded me of Kaori's situation from last time. If he went out of control, the only one who could stop him was probably Kanzo. But even then, someone could die. Kyonosuke was, as Mochi had pointed out in the feast, a convenient dumping ground for votes. Knowing Kanzo's influence, Mamiya would definitely become a candidate for a hanging. In fact, it was more or less obvious that she was an enemy by now. On the other hand, we had people in important positions in completely different ways than yesterday. Mochi had good intuition and used it on me a lot. And Haru, she had little to do with the feast, but she might have had a hint or two regarding my looping phenomenon. Investigating her would be completely personal, but I'd already let Tai die because of my selfishness, so that wouldn't be special. It was pretty messed up, clearly, but so was the situation where a selfless act could prove fatal. Besides them, Kaori, the old wolf guy, and Yoshitsugu were still total blanks. Whether Kaori was a wolf or human, she'd be a real danger if her sons died. She wasn't a good target for the snake. Yoshitsugu had a tendency to go wild, but he had little influence over the feast. The old wolf guy was the same as always, an unpredictable vote. I wouldn't pick them this time. Come to think of it, could I investigate the same person I checked yesterday? It would probably be pointless, but I was curious. Who did I have to go for? Okay, it would give us information if we knew whether we could investigate the same person as last time. The question is that information at all useful? And I think the answer to that is no, it's not. Technically, the only thing that would do is it would limit our information. It would make us have less information about one more person that we could have investigated. And I feel like that is pretty much never a good thing. I could probably see it, like, on a super slim percentage, actually be helpful in some situations, on like a psychological level. But I feel like overall it's just not going to be useful. So I don't think we even need to know whether that's something we can do. Now then, who do we investigate? Kyonosuke is an interesting one because I feel like he's not going to be that influential anyway. And he doesn't, at least from what I've seen of him so far, he doesn't really stand out in this run. Hisako is also an interesting one. Because I feel like there's about, unless... Okay, no, regardless. Because we know after this night whether Tai was a human or a wolf, don't we? At least I'm pretty sure like we somehow learned that the next day. I don't think we already know that. Unless I sort of forgot about it. So, if we know that Tai is human, or was human, I guess, then we kind of know that Hisako is a wolf anyway, and the other way around too. So I feel like investigating her, unless she actually had like a huge secret plan of doing something crazy as a human, is going to help us much. Shikamoshi is an interesting one. So is Haru. I feel like I'm going to have to decide between those two. The question is, who do I think is more useful? Well, more useful to know about. Not necessarily more useful in a feast. I feel like Shikamoshi definitely has more influence. So I feel like he might be a more interesting option. Haru's kind of just there most of the time when she's not possessed. I'll go with Chikamochi. I wrote down the name, left it near my pillow, and went to sleep. I don't know what that says because I can't read Japanese. Truth of the Genius. Right, what does it say? Key 13. All of this, like the fact that there's only 20 keys now and like investigating everyone gives me a key makes me think that there is no more run after this. Like you can go through different paths, but it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of sense in because this is probably not going to change. That's just his role now. So unless the initial assessment that we're having is that, the roles always stay the same with the same people involved, unless that is true, I think this has to be like the run, essentially. Chikamochi's a wolf. Yeah. I'm not super surprised. An unpleasant revelation, but I should be able to corner him with this. We'll see. The 15th of May. I woke up yet another day, and got the info I wanted as the snake. You could also say the wolves had let me live. Could I trust that Yasunaga and Mochi were the only ones who suspected me? I could contribute to the human survival by hiding my identity as the snake and gathering information about the others. However, that had me worried. Would everyone believe the snake who'd survived by hiding his identity and revealing himself late into the game? I was particularly worried about Kanzo. He hadn't said anything completely wrong so far, but there was a tendency for anyone he cast suspicion on to be dogpiled by the others. That seemed intentional on his part, but it seemed like a mistake to me. Yasunaga's attempts at resistance hadn't gone well so far. He didn't have many cards to play yet. Perhaps he believed that I could be one of those cards? Would I be able to act today? Weighing my options, I opened the door and saw Takumi. My surprised gasp quickly became a cry of pain. Knocked backwards, I was thrown back into the hut. Sitting on the floor, I looked up at him. He wasn't saying a thing. His expression was stern and his eyes seemed to be boiling with hatred. In his left hand, he held a hoe. Even that seemed like a lethal weapon when held by a man with such a threatening visage. He was out of control, and I was clearly in danger. He still wasn't saying anything, not because of hesitation, but because he was waiting for my reaction. He would decide what to do based on what I did. Why are you here? Still on the floor, I asked him that. 2 died today. His response wasn't an answer to my question, but it was an important thing nonetheless. We had a death that broke the rule of 1 per day, 1 per night, something commonplace during the previous loop. It had happened again. Who? I was more or less certain that one of them was Yoshitsugu Oribe. The boy went wild during the first night last time, and he tried the same this time, so I assumed that another night was all he needed to gather the resolve to go wolf hunting. Instead of answering, though, Takumi just took a step forward and closed the door behind him. He crouched down and looked me in the eyes, but even from that position, he loomed over me. You said you voted for me to protect me yesterday. His voice was quiet, but I hear barely concealed rage in it. Explain that to me in a way even I can understand. He then rested his right hand on the hoe. I couldn't read his true intentions. However, he was definitely in charge here, and the wrong answer would be punished harshly. This would be a tough one. I knew this would happen. Huh? I had to consider what was on his mind. He was probably planning to beat me up no matter how I responded. However, he did seem to leave some space for consideration in case I gave him a good answer. I was now being tested. In this situation, he'd only understand if I provided him with something unexpected. If I could do that, I could get him to agree with me. I'd already planned a response to this. It was both well-rounded and difficult to pull off. Yesterday, you were at a crossroads. You always believed that Yasumizu was unified and that no one here would kill anyone else. However, since you also valued their words, regardless of which generation they were from, you were unable to commit to a course of action. I paused for a second. Go on. He prodded me with the hoe. It didn't hurt, but it seemed antagonistic. However, he was still giving me a chance to talk. The elders, especially Tai Yamawaki, believed that the feast was a paranormal phenomenon, with absolute power overall within, and that death was unavoidable. The legend she recounted to us was the reason why Yasumizu became isolated, even here in Fujiyoshi, but it was also a part of its identity. Make it simple. Because of the story about killing the wolves and revenge, Yasumizu was given the unfair role of being the defense against Yomi. However, if you accepted life here and looked at it from an optimistic standpoint, the story was actually something to be proud of. That was why, despite saying that the stories were nonsense, you couldn't just brush them off. You seem to understand me so far. On the other hand, you are better at using your head and thinking logically than most others here, so you were better at telling truth from lie. That was why you could relate to Chiyomi's and Yasunaga's more modern, logical ways of thinking. One had lived in the city while the other had a keen mind. However, they themselves looked at the situation differently. While one calmly thought that you couldn't just go off and murder, the other calmly thought that you can't avoid murder. You relate to them all. That was why you wanted to take the middle road, but that would make it impossible for you to move forward or back. As the leader of Yasumizu, and the mediator between the generations, you had to live up to their expectations. That was why you decided to assume who were the enemies of Yasumizu and prioritize attacking them. Fortunately for you, you had a few options. One of them was the mystery girl, Meiko. Another was Rikako. She was a village head and they had a history of prejudice against Yasumizu. And then there was me, the guy with the unknown background. After that, there was Mamiya. Her identity was clear, but she was still an outsider. And lastly, Nosato, the village head who didn't seem to know anything because he was a second child. Of course, Yamawaki and Kaori Oribe, both of whom you were close to, were lowest on this list. You simply wanted to attack them based on this order because you wanted to avoid hurting those you were sympathetic to. I wouldn't call it unreasonable. It's natural to believe that the invaders are the enemies rather than that your neighbors became murderers. You were able to carry on this way of thinking until yesterday morning. No one died that night, after all. However, that all crumbled at noon when Yasumizu's people prioritized killing a local mainstay over an outsider. That's why you locked yourself up. You needed time to rethink your strategy. You considered how to rework your list of enemies and how to determine Tai Yamawaki's murderer. My words were cut off when he threw away the hoe and grabbed me by my collar. That's not true. Being shaken by his powerful fists made it hard to breathe, but it wasn't violence just yet. If it really isn't, you can argue with words instead of threats. That's how you usually are, right? However, you decided to create enemies for yourself. That left you with only one option. Oppose the ones who killed Taya and avenge her by attacking them. No. Yes, though she claimed to have a guardian, it was clear that Mamiya's attitude was weird, and yet the one who was hanged was Taya. That was why you thought that the wolves must have banded up and voted for Taya. They had to be lurking among those who voted her into her death. I'm sure that's what you thought. And in turn, I thought this. At this point, the guilt from not saving her would get to you, and you'd go berserk without any regard for yourself. Perhaps to the point of killing all the suspects, even if it meant getting the corruption. That's why I thought about what I had to do. If I voted for Yamawaki, I would be your enemy number one. Meiko was young, and while Rikako voted for Yamawaki, she accepted that. Me though? I have nothing. If you went berserk and started killing, I would be the first on your list. That was why I couldn't vote for her. That's your reason? You had another choice, damn it. He was right. Though Taya had already had more votes, I saw the difference clearly and could use my vote to take it to the final vote. Even so, I couldn't vote for Hisako Mamiya. Why? You suspected her too, didn't you? And now... What was I to do here? There was no guarantee that no one was listening. It was probably best to assume that someone was. Even if there wasn't, was it a good idea to tell him about my guardian? I didn't have much time to think about this. Takumi grabbed the hoe again. We're gonna trust him. Because we know he's innocent. My decision wasn't due to trusting him personally. I did it solely because I knew he wasn't a wolf. I am the snake. Still, that was enough info to allow me to reveal it to him. That's why I knew she was a fake right from the start. His grip relaxed for a second, but then why didn't you say it? If you'd revealed yourself, Ba wouldn't have... It's because I understood that the wolves wanted to know who the snake was, even if it meant sacrificing one of their own. What do you mean? Yesterday I said that to make an active effort to win, the wolves had to pretend to have guardians. But by that I meant the wolves as a group. No matter how good of an actor you are, by acting like you have a guardian, you will be suspected and put in danger. As a result, the faker would eventually be hanged, but it would have bought some time for the remaining wolves. However, pretending to have a guardian when no one had died was way too risky. The real one was still alive after all. That meant that the wolves could have been planning only one thing: to draw out the real snake and kill them that very night. There was also the possibility that she was a badger, but that would have only made it more confusing, so I omitted it. I did nothing to stop Yamawaki's death, I won't deny that. However, I thought it was necessary for me to survive and get back at the wolves. I couldn't have voted for Mamiya either. It was to keep the wolves from realizing that I actually knew exactly what she was. That was why, instead of using my vote on them, I used it to send you a message. It was a pretty bad plan, if I say so myself. I had no idea if you would understand. But the result is clear. You came to me and gave me a chance to explain myself. This chance was necessary for me. What do you mean? Can you let me go? He did as I asked. We can avenge Tyre by fixing the majority and killing all the wolves. However, for that, I need you to trust me. I already trust you. After all, I used the snake's power to confirm that you are human. Can you trust me? This was very one-sided. However, it was in line with his desire. He was conflicted between three things: sympathy for me as an unfortunate outsider, the unfairness of the final vote yesterday, and my suggestion. This was especially hard for him because he wanted to be impartial. I can't decide that so suddenly. I understand, but I kind of believe that you are the snake. Are you sure that's a good idea? The feast's all about whether you believe or not, right? He had a point. Also, your assumption is right. Which one? I was thinking of killing you yesterday. Whoa. If I'd come here in the state I was yesterday, I'd have probably killed you before listening to anything you had to say. But I couldn't go through with that, probably because I wanted to know what you meant. So I'd worked some word magic there, huh? But that has nothing to do with whether I trust you or not, and I'll think about your suggestion after you tell me more. That's good enough for me. By the way, you said 2 people died. Who? Oh, I was just thinking of telling you. Come with me, we gotta find the old man. The ones who died today were Haru Makishima and Hisako Mamiya. Okay. Interesting. So it was a good choice to not investigate either of them, because they're both dead. Hisako being dead is an interesting one though. I'm assuming someone just murdered her, rather than actually the wolves going after her. When Takumi told me that, I was more confused than shocked. Why? Why them of all people? However, I couldn't spend a lot of time thinking. Takumi predicted that Kanzo would go on a frenzy if he saw Haru's corpse. That reminded me of the time he'd ran up to her when she was acting weird. Mochi had told me that he loved his granddaughter a lot, and that was undoubtedly true. Takumi had walked around Yasumizu before coming to me, but he couldn't find Kanzo anywhere. It would have been fine if they just missed each other, but Kanzo always woke up and walked around before anyone else, so he must have already seen Haru's body. Considering the situation, I couldn't help but feel that something bad was happening with him right now. He's got a rifle. Guy's more dangerous than me. Even Takumi, who almost killed me himself, deemed him a huge threat. At the plaza, we met Chiemi. Her eyes were all red.
Haruaki.
You saw the old man?
Huh? No, I kind of thought that you would be doing something to Haruaki by now.
We'll talk about it later. Haru's room is open, right? Old man Kanzo must have already saw her. Let's stick together and search for her. Chiemi, where are Chikamochi and Yasu?
They might still be asleep.
And wake them up and let's gather at the dorm. Fusaishi, grab a stick or something. Oh, okay.
Haruaki, are you okay?
What?
Well,
I won't say I didn't touch him, but I didn't do anything to him. Let's just go already. His words and large frame made it feel like his usual strength and confidence had returned.
Rikako, Meiko, Kaori, Yoshitsugu, everyone from the nearby homes were still with us.
We told them what happened, but since we couldn't wait for the women to get dressed, we left this place in Yoshitsugu's hands. Yoshi, if you see the old man, stop him at all costs. You protect the women and kids. You voted for Tai yesterday. Old man Kanzo might go for you without even giving you a chance to talk. But I kind of feel like it would work out for you. Sure you won't run? Don't worry, leave it to me.
Wait, Takumi, would Kanzo really attack him just because he voted for Tai? I wonder that as well. Yesterday, Makishima suggested that we hang both Yamawaki and Mamiya, and he himself was the one who put the noose over her. Ah.
Yeah, unlike me, he probably wouldn't go apeshit over Tai. But the journal lady was a wolf. That's why it's possible that he'll suspect everyone who voted for Tai instead of her.
What's with the confidence? You know something about the woman?
I was tense. It was entirely possible that Takumi was about to reveal what I was. However, I got a different response than I was expecting. You'll understand when you see her. As the three of us went uphill, an unpleasant reek tickled our noses. We arrived at the concrete stairs near the dorm. Fusaishi, watch where you're stepping. I thought there was no deeper meaning behind those words, but then I saw the blood near my feet. A corpse. If I hadn't recognized it as such, I would have assumed it was a piece of modern art. Not because it was beautiful, but because it seemed so artificial. She was spread out, whittled down. All parts of her were torn, pulled, stretched in all directions. She actually covered the entire staircase. Muscle, fat, skin, tendons, hair, keratin, animal, mucus parts, cartilage, eye lenses, clotted blood, excrement. All that had comprised this adult lady yesterday had been spread out over a large surface. It felt like I was looking at an anatomical drawing. It felt so artificial you could barely tell it was a dead human, but I didn't really know what to make of it. One thing was clear though. There was no special knowledge or intent behind this. It was pure, unadulterated violence that simply departed once it was complete. At the center of it all, you could find half of the bones needed to complete a human being. But a part of the face was still intact, which clearly revealed that the corpse belonged to Hisako Mamiya. She died outside her room. You'll understand when you see her. That was why he'd said that. Chiemi covered her mouth. I told her she could vomit if she wanted, but she said she had nothing left in her stomach. She must have seen this when leaving the dorm and passing through here. We ended up avoiding the stairs and went up the steep slope instead. The grass below was wet. Thinking that some of it was caused by her fluids, I became somewhat disturbed. Haru would have fainted if she saw this. That thought reminded me that she too was no longer with us, casting an even deeper pall over the scene. We arrived at the dorm without anything else happening. Mochi was sitting on the stairs. It was the first time I'd ever seen him sad. Haru's dead. I thought he was unique enough to treasure something regardless if it was dead or alive. However, Haru seemed to be an exception for him. Last time I'd found out that he liked her, but I wasn't sure if it was that simple. Nor did I see the point of thinking about it. Where's Yasu? Upstairs. Yasu! After getting no response, we walked past Mochi up to the second floor. The door closest to the stairs was open. Yasu, you here? He was. He was on his knees, spacing out, looking utterly powerless. Get a grip, we're all gonna look for old man Kanzo. Yasu! Takumi rather violently shook him, and Yasunaga made his first sound, a whimper. He didn't want to accept the despair before his eyes, and kept his emotions from blowing up. I could see that in his face. It's my fault. The first thing he blamed was himself. It's the third day, and I still haven't found a single wolf. No. Takumi shook him again. This is all the wolf's fault. If not that, then it's my fault for not stopping old man Kanzo. Your work has just begun. Get a grip, Yasu. Jimmy, take over. Yasu. She opened her arms. Yasunaga refused the embrace, lightly pushed her aside and left. She glanced back at me for a moment. Her expression felt hesitant to me, or was I being too conceited? We'll be downstairs. Yasu, wait up. Jimmy chased after him and tried to take his hand, and then I lost sight of them. Man, this is just horrible. I heard it from Jimmy, but still. Takumi looked back into the room. It's messed up. I felt the same way. This was nothing like the work of the wolves from last time. Kanzo had his face crushed and Takumi had been shot in the head. Last time Yasunaga and Taya had both prioritized the head. It was a brutal yet efficient way of quickly taking their targets' lives. This, however, was the reverse. Haru's empty, somewhat sad expression was preserved perfectly. Though stained by blood from her mouth, her deathly visage was even beautiful in a sense. The rest of the body, though, was a complete mess. She was lying on a futon, covered in aged casual clothes. For some reason, it didn't seem like she bled much. It was clear that she was beat up with a blunt instrument. Everything besides her head had been thoroughly crushed by something heavy. She was like a pancake from the neck down. Her limbs were bent in unnatural ways that made it seem like she had no bones. It was an excessive way to kill someone, and her face was clearly left untouched on purpose. It was openly malicious, like the killer was toying with their victim. Profiling wasn't my area of expertise, nor was I particularly good at it. However, I couldn't help drawing a certain conclusion. The wet, bloody footprints made it clear that this was, like last time, the work of the wolves. However, these wolves were far crueler than the previous bunch. Prioritizing the search for Kanzo, we left the cleanup for later and quickly returned to gather the others. Mochi and Yasunaga joined us, and the five of us went to the Nosoto mansion next to meet up with Kiyonosuke, who was just passing through the gate. He was surprised that 2 people had died, but he was more bothered by the fact Kanzo was nowhere to be found. It seemed to scare him. He has a gun, doesn't he? This seems dangerous. The old man I know would never use it on people. He's like a different person with the mist around there, he added. Kanzo had already pointed his gun at people. Takumi didn't want to see Kanzo as a threat, but it was clear he didn't trust him completely. His blind faith in the locals had vanished overnight. It probably wasn't virtuous in the general sense, but in the current situation that naivete had been his only weakness. We then went to Ty's house, passing the supposedly empty construction site along the way. We still couldn't find Kanzo or anything out of the ordinary. After that, we went back to the plaza. In the dining hall, we found Yoshitsugu and the women who were now dressed. They looked worried, but aside from that, everything was normal here too. We left Kyonosuke and Yasunaga there as some extra defense. Yasunaga was still in a state of shock, and everyone wordlessly agreed that he should be with his family now. Then we went to the north, downhill, but we still couldn't find anything. Takumi then parted some bushes for some reason, and as it turned out, the old wolf guy lived around here. This made me realize that I hadn't seen his place yet. Once we arrived there, my first impression was that it didn't even look like a house. It was more like a wooden shed or storage room with frames that were barely stable and a door that didn't seem to fit properly. It honestly didn't seem like it would qualify as shelter. It wasn't all that much better than that outhouse I had hidden in. Around it there were lots of useless things, like small pieces of cloth and rusty farming tools. Apparently he had a tendency to go around Yasumizu and collect or steal these sorts of things. He wasn't in the hut. The open door made us nervous, but there was no dead body inside. After some more searching, we found the old wolf guy laughing around the pine, and he joined us. We now knew the whereabouts of everyone except Kanzo, and the body count remained at 2. We then checked Kanzo's house again, and it was still empty. And so we returned to the dining hall. Despite the tension, Kaori began making food. Well, it was important to stay well fed, so no one grumbled. It was rice gruel again, but no one complained about that either, and just ate up. The students and Chiemi didn't seem to have an appetite though. We then talked about what we'd do next. It was about 7 o'clock. The fact that none of us had seen Kanzo yet was unnerving. Takumi insisted we go searching again, but the others began to think that it was a waste of time. Some assumed that he either left the settlement, got stuck in some pond or field, or was taken by the corruption. Though those were all major problems that would require us to find him ASAP, most just didn't want to continue this. It seemed to me that while Kanzo may have had a lot of influence here, and many depended on him, a lot of the villagers had a latent aversion to him. In the end, though, we just couldn't ignore the possibility that he might have been lurking somewhere with his gun in hand. Once again, for the first time this loop anyway, a search party was sent out. Takumi, Chiemi, Mochi, and I all went around the misty settlement, but we couldn't find him. Just what's going on here? No clue. I feel like we're wasting time here. I had no evidence, but I felt the same way. Soon enough, we just went back to the plaza. Fusayuki. Meiko. It was a while since I'd last spoken to her. We hadn't talked once yesterday, and it seemed like it would be a while until she found out my name. What's wrong? Where's Rikako? Mommy is talking about some difficult stuff, so I'm playing outside. What are the people in the dining hall doing? What if something happened to this girl? Meiko voted for Tai as well, right? Yeah? Ah. Anyway, what's up? I saw Ochi. What? Old man, what are you doing? He'd been right under our noses. Specifically the hall where we held the feasts. He was exactly where he would be during the feast. Right next to him there was an empty bottle of divine sake. Kanzo, about Haru. Don't say it. He pushed away the bottle and stood up. He didn't seem the least bit drunk. In fact, his eyes were even sharper than usual. Haru's gone. All that's left is to bring an end to the feast. That's it. In other words, the daily morning patrols he was always doing were for Haru's sake. So now that she was gone, this was the only place for him. So you're waiting? He replied with silence and sat down again, bringing his hunting rifle closer to him. I'll call everyone. It ain't time yet. If we let you wait here, everyone's gonna be nervous. Don't care. Give me the gun, we'll put it back. Go back! Give me the gun. Instead of replying, Kanzo took his gun and aimed at Takumi. Go back to the dining hall and wait till noon. This scene seemed symbolic to me. Kanzo wanted to lead by force and demonstrated it with his killing instrument. At this point, no one could get in the way of him leading the feast. But then something I didn't expect happened. It was right when Kanzo seemed to have finished talking. Takumi grabbed the front of the gun with his hand, pushed it aside, took a step forward, and punched Kanzo right in the face. I also didn't expect the old man to instantly retaliate. In less than a second, Kanzo let go of the gun and threw a punch into Takumi's face. No! Blood gushed out as Takumi's face was distorted in pain. However, that wasn't enough to take him out. Ah! A slap from the left hand, the base of the palm cleanly hit Kanzo's face, and the old man was thrown backwards. He hit the wall behind him with a loud crunch, but even then Kanzo stood up, clearly ready for more. It was an opening. I grabbed the hunting rifle. Huh? And gave it to Chiyomi. Things were going so fast that I forgot that I wasn't supposed to know that she knew her way around guns yet. Chi! Take it apart and throw it away. But Takumi understood my intention. Right. Chiyomi turned around. Kanzo tried to chase after her, but Takumi, Mochi and I held him back. I know how you feel, but guns are unfair. So what? Can't trust no one. I gotta protect Yasumizu. What else can I do, huh? You can trust someone. Takumi glanced at me, but I couldn't agree with him in this situation. I could reveal myself to Kanzo, but not in front of Mochi. Even if someone had been eavesdropping on us when I told Takumi, it still wasn't the time to reveal it. There's one thing that's clear. The wolves went for Haru to get to you, Makishima. You understand that, don't you? Making the situation even harsher like you are right now is exactly what they want. Don't act like you know. I do. After all, everyone is starting to fear you. You're the ones who started it. If it weren't for the gun, I'd be apologizing for suspecting you by now. They then fell silent and glared at each other. Mochi, get everyone here. We should start the feast right now. You're right. Wouldn't want to leave the old man alone. Kanzo grunted, displeased, but offered no more protest towards starting the feast. Honestly, there was no real reason why the time for when the feast started had been decided when it was. Kanzo was only doing it on the same time as the first day. The fact that he insisted on the usual time so strongly that he brandished his gun over it made me feel like he was more obsessed with control over the situation than actually thinking things through. At the base of it all, there was mistrust. He couldn't trust anyone, so he simply repeated whatever had brought him success so far. It would be good if that led to our victory, but the feast really had to be approached like a game. There was no single way to win, and there was competition. If you could read the enemy's strategy, you could also outplay them. That was significantly easier for the wolves. It was best to assume they understood exactly how Kanzo fought. That was why they targeted Haru. It was necessary to rethink our own strategy. It would all depend on how today's feast went. Especially for myself, since I was the snake and had to survive no matter what. Everyone drunk?
Yes.
Alright, we're starting the feast. Haru was killed by the wolves last night, her body still in her room. We won't let her death go to waste. We'll find the wolves and end this hell. It might even happen today. There was whispering. The people wondered if that was really possible. Takumi, I'd love to do that too, but what are you planning? Can't say that yet. Good move. I hadn't explained my intentions to him yet, but he had a vague idea of what I was planning. The key word was fixed majority. If he understood that clearly, we would have a chance at winning. Think we'll believe you if you don't tell. After all that had happened today, he had kind of worried Kanzo wouldn't say anything, but that wasn't what happened. He also wanted to give his all to end this feast with a victory. That was why he couldn't just stay quiet and let us all die, and continued pushing his strong approach to the feast, denying other ideas. Yeah, I can't say it. That might change though. By the way, what were you planning to do today? Hang everyone who voted for Tai. I knew it. I could hear whispers of perplexion and fear. His targets today would be the 4 who voted for Tai yesterday and didn't die last night. Basically, the old wolf guy, Yoshitsugu, Rikako, and Meiko. Hold on, why? The journalist was a wolf. How do you know? So corpse was outside. Yasunaga seemed to have recovered a little and was now doing what he had to again. In the feast, you're supposed to get 1 death per day and 1 per night. The fact that 2 died in one night means that something unusual happened. Haru was dead in her own room because she was visited by the wolves. Mamiya's body was outside her room, and judging by its state, she was probably taken by the corruption.
Haru was in a bad state too.
I know, but her case was still something that could have been done by humans. Mamiya's was on a whole other level. What about it? She just walked around at night, didn't she? Yeah, exactly. Then why would she be a wolf? Wasn't it the old hag? That's because... Wait, Yasu, let me say it. Okay. That woman was acting weird all day. The old man said he'd hang her, so I can't say I don't get her. What would happen if her death was all but certain? An outsider would try to escape Yasumi's, right? She'd think she could run away. But the lady didn't do it. Yeah, she hadn't even tried to run. What of it? If you're running away, it's better to do it during the day. Even with the mist, you can see stuff better in the light. You can't see anything at night. There's really no reason not to run away during the day. The mist would hide her and let her escape without us realizing it. If she'd run away yesterday after we all split up in the evening, she could have gotten to the very edge of Yasumizu. But that's not where she succumbed to the corruption. Maybe she had some other reason for going out at night. About that, anyone else but me here try to stay awake at night? That question came out of left field, but Yasunaga, Chiemi, Yoshitsugu, and I raised our hands. Didn't you say you stopped? We ain't talking about going outside, are we? I took a stick to my futon in case someone came for me.
You went against the law of dreaming?
Yeah, just 2 nights ago, like Yoshi, I grabbed a weapon and waited for something to come, but I still ended up falling asleep. Can you believe that? This whole thing's such a crisis, you shouldn't be able to fall asleep at all, yet before you know it, you woke up and it's morning. It's not that you're not allowed to stay up late, you just can't. It's one of the things that freaks me out about the feast. You should know if you try to stay up. Only the wolves can move around at night. That's because she was an outsider. Outsider or not, the feast is above all of us. If being an outsider was an excuse, the journalists wouldn't have fallen victim to the corruption. I had the mysterious experience of being spared by hiding in a toilet, but I had no choice but to stay quiet this time. Hashimoto, the large cameraman, died by going out at night, didn't he? I don't know much about that, but if I got a guess, he died because he wasn't sheltered properly. Cleanse, shelter. As long as you have those 2 covered, you'll definitely fall asleep. But if you stayed outside right from the start... It's just an assumption, though. Yeah, it is. You can ignore it if you want. But if the woman was a human, you'd have no reason to risk going outside. He's a wolf who was walking around at night, messed up somehow and got punished for it. That's the only possible explanation. Yasunaga and Yoshitsugu both fell silent. They couldn't argue against that anymore. Sure, it was strange how we just somehow fell asleep, but there were cases of people going out at night, both this and the previous time. I'd have to think about it some more later.
Did you know that too, Makishima?
Only 2 kinds of people go out at night. wolves and humans who die like dogs trying to kill the wolves. With how important the dreaming law was to the locals, it was natural for them to assume that anyone who went out at night was a wolf. When you looked at it like that, Yoshitsugu, who insisted on going out, was extremely reckless. That's why Hisako Mamiya was a wolf. So Ba, who she set up as a wolf, was clearly a human. Ain't it possible that both of them were wolves? I felt for him. It was his vote that killed Tai. Even if he was prepared for it, it was hard to justify. But not impossible, but extremely unlikely.
No, it isn't.
Hmm?
Yamawaki, who we hanged yesterday, was a human. Sorry for keeping it a secret so far, but I am the crow.
What? What? Seriously?
I shall take responsibility for my son's rudeness and his vote that killed Yamawaki. I am ready to take all the blame you give him, especially from Takumi, who loved Yamawaki like a mother. So please, don't punish him.
Her voice was sincere and sorrowful. She put her hands in front of her and placed her forehead on the floor. Stop! Hey, I'm the one who voted. You had nothing to do with that. Oh, that's probably how I looked yesterday. Takumi. Don't worry, I know. Kaori, Yoshi, we ain't talking about who's to blame for Ba's hanging.
But...
No buts. No one said it was a mistake back then, so we're all to blame here. The votes that killed her are more like something to help us decide what to do, not some sins that get the noose around your neck. Is that right, Yasunara? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. You sure, though? I won't forgive the wolves or whoever got them to kill. I'm with the old man on that. Kanzo slightly opened his eyes, looking surprised he'd come up, but then looked away with, Something's bothering me. Can I say, Takumi? Yeah, of course. Do we have anyone else claiming to be the crow?
Yasunaga.
I know. I want to believe, but this is what's expected of me here. Do we have any other crows besides Kaori Oribe?
Aniki, you damn... Shitsugu, silence. Learn from his example. Yasu.
I felt like the power balance here in Yasumizu was shifting. Kanzo was losing his influence, and Takumi's authority bridged the generations. That amplified Yasunaga's voice, putting him back at the front. However, this was a temporary thing that could only last when Kanzo's high-handedness was failing. It could be turned around if someone messed up, or was hanged today and drove someone else over the edge. I will say this just in case, but if you're real and you're keeping your silence, you're being nothing but a burden for us. If you know Kaori Oribe is fake and stay silent despite that, you won't be recognized as real if you decide to claim so later. Understand? Those words felt like they were directed at me too. Scary. Looks like we have no one.
Wait. We had no one come out against Mamiya's claim that she was the snake, and she turned out to be a wolf, didn't she? And now we have a whole 3 less people than yesterday. Isn't it a bit too early to decide she is real just because no one is revealing themselves now?
Yes, you are right. But the possibility that Tai or Mamiya were the crow is extremely low. Exactly. Tai would have revealed that before she was hanged, while Mamiya wouldn't have had a reason to pretend to be the snake to begin with. There's nothing that says Haru wasn't the crow, but I know that she was absolutely terrible at lying and keeping secrets. She didn't act like she was hiding a guardian, and we were together most of the time. I'm confident I would have noticed any signs that implied she was the crow. The possibility that Kaori Oribe is a wolf who realized that Haru was the crow before I did, and then killed her to take her spot is pretty much zero. There's also the possibility that Haru hid her role until the end, and the wolves just happened to hit the crow by killing her, but that's unlikely too. None of those who died were the crow. Can you agree to that?
Your proof that Haru Makishima wasn't the crow is thin and circumstantial. You weren't the only one close to her, were you? What if a wolf that was also close to her realized she had a guardian and told Kaori Oribe? You can't deny that possibility, can you?
Yasunaga kept his eyes straight. To me, it seemed like it was a way of preventing those doubts from taking rules. Wait, rules? Taking root. I was like, that doesn't sound right. What did I read? Wait, did you suspect me?
No way. Mochi would never kill Haru.
I wouldn't be so certain, Chie. But I don't believe he hid it either.
What's your proof?
What a strange silence. It didn't look like he had nothing to say. More that it was hard for him to say it.
Come on, you said it yourself, uncle. I'm an eccentric. I can't understand how others feel. I was with Haru and Yasun because they don't mind no matter what I do. All I know is that they're good guys. I don't even care about anything else. You should say it too, Yasun. Tell him that it's what I'm like.
I wouldn't say so. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that Haru was the crow and got killed because of it. I think the crow is still alive, and it's her.
Yes, I am the crow. I see. Very well. Even I understand I'm pushing it with the theories, so I shall keep to myself a bit. However, since we can say the same thing about the snake as well, that means the real one is still alive, right?
He was right. That was the right way to look at it. And it was true.
Let us push aside the reason why he or she didn't say anything when the fake came out. Is there a guarantee that the same thing isn't happening again? What if another fake's shown up and the real one's keeping their silence just like yesterday? You're just pushing it again. There's no way she's lying. If the journal was a wolf, then the old hag was human, damn it. Even a fake has no reason to lie. If the goal is to make people trust you, it's best to speak the truth. Even if another crow shows up today, they could only tell us a truth we already know, that Tai Yamawaki was human. And we would have no way to tell whether Lady Oribe or the other one was the real crow.
His assertion was a bit cynical, but accurate. If he was the modest and cautious one, he would be way more valuable to the humans. I must object to that. After all, Mamiya was a wolf who wanted to see the Guardian survive. Who wanted to use the Guardian to survive. However, Kaori Oribe revealed her Guardian while begging to take all the blame for Yoshitsugu Oribe. It's neither wise nor right, but I believe it's the real her talking, not the cunning of a wolf.
The foolishness proves it, you say?
That is my reason for believing Kaori Oribe. Higuchi's wife's gonna protect Yoshi even if he's a wolf. My heart skipped a beat. Kanzo's voice was like a rumble, and just like before, it was dense with gloominess and anger. He had a point, too. If it were for her son, Kaori was capable of breaking the feast's mental shackles.
You old fart.
He's not that type of guy. He spoke forcefully. If he was a wolf, he'd declare it and go around killing us directly. That's just how he is. He's like our parents, straightforward, stubborn, and won't accept anything that doesn't sit right with him, not even God. If he had to die to prove Kaori Oribe innocent, he'd surely do it. That's not something that I, the only sly coward in the family, can do. Yoshitsugu is a human.
Hey!
Yoshitsugu rose to his feet and howled at his brother.
Don't act like you know shit. If you spent more time with Mom, she'd...
I do know. My cunning comes from my Higuchi blood. Mom has no reason to love me. She loves you way more. That's why I'm working hard and studying so I can pay her back with money and other things. You should be more grateful that she loves you just because you were born honest, Yoshitsugu.
Why are you bringing yourself down so much? Aniki, listen up, you... Quiet, you two.
The mother's voice quickly silenced her son's.
Why are you fighting over such nonsense at a time like this? Kanzo Makishima.
The old man grunted in response to the mention of his name.
I heard that when my late husband, Sadayoshi Higuchi, died, there was mist in Yasumizu. Did he die in a feast? Did you kill him?
He got killed by the wolves on the first day. Old man?
I've been 2 feasts. Only this old fart and I survived.
Paused.
What about it?
Nothing. Even if you were the one who killed him, it was because of the feast. But know this, Yasunaga Yoshitsugu. I don't want to lose my family to the feast ever again. So please, work together. You are brothers, aren't you?
I didn't say I have anything against that.
Me neither.
Hey, sorry to bother you, but this really ain't the time for a family feud. The fact that the old man's been in a feast doesn't matter much. Right now, anyway. Kanzo clicked his tongue. I believe the Oribus. Yasu's the monkey, while Yoshi and Kaori aren't the type to lie. That makes it all but clear that Tai and Haru were humans, while the journal lady was a wolf. We have 2 more wolves and 10 humans here. Out of them, the old man and Yasu are confirmed to be monkeys, and it's likely that Kaori is a crow. I trust Yoshi too, but it's not like we have any proof he's human, so I won't add him here.
Fine by me.
Now, how do we proceed? The still living real snake has the right info. This feast might be as good as over. There it was.
What do you mean?
If the snake reveals themselves and states that 2 more of us are human, there would be 6 confirmed humans, meaning we would have half of the votes. With those 6 being confirmed, it would be unlikely that the rest of us would vote for the same person, meaning that victory would be as good as ours.
Fixed majority.
Exactly. And we would hang one of the 6 unknown, while the wolves would kill one of the 6 confirmed humans. Their primary target would be the snake, but it's likely that the spider is still alive. If he or she protects the snake tonight, we would have 1 less confirmed human and 1 less unknown, and gain another confirmed human or wolf tomorrow. It would either become 6 humans and 4 unknown, or 5 humans, 4 unknown, and 1 wolf. The confirmed humans would become a majority regardless. This number couldn't be turned around, so we would most certainly win.
The snake's gotta find 2 humans?
Even if he does find a wolf, we'll only have 5 confirmed humans. In that case, even if we hanged a wolf, we'd still be left with 4 confirmed humans and 6 unknown. The human's victory wouldn't be ensured. Of course, hanging a wolf would give us a great advantage, and if the snake comes out, the wolves wouldn't keep quiet either. Personally, I won't promise that I will certainly kill whoever reveals themselves. The snake's reveal could help bring certain things into the open. That was the opposite of Kanzo's approach. The old man clicked his tongue and some squirmed uncomfortably. But if the snake only looked into those who died, like Haru, Yamawaki, and Mamiya, he or she should stay quiet. But if that isn't the case, I would like the snake to reveal him or herself. Yeah, I think he has a point. I had to think. Was that the info I had enough? I couldn't tell them that I'd used my looping to gather info. That was why I could only reveal 2 results, one for yesterday and one for today. I'd already told Takumi that I'd checked and confirmed that he was a human. Thus, it was important for me to reveal that along with someone whose identity would help us. If I continued my silence, they might begin to believe that the snake wasn't fulfilling his duties properly. This was a do-or-die situation. Yeah. Because the thing is, like, at this point, if we reveal nothing, I mean, it's still just essentially throwing a die whether we die tonight or not. There's nothing protecting us necessarily, apart from random chance. And we have enough information where I believe that it is absolutely important that, you know, the townspeople, the humans, know. So I absolutely believe in revealing what we know here. It's interesting that there is another way with knowing the role of someone else, but we will reveal this. Probably a confirmed human. Probably Kyonosuke is my... This is... Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Kyonosuke, who is a human. I had the evidence to reveal myself. I had a safety plan all set up. However, I also knew it was a ticking bomb that would likely throw things into chaos. Still, I'd already made up my mind, so I couldn't hesitate.
Yes. Everyone looked to me when I raised my hand. I was nervous, but now that I'd spoken up, all that was left was to go with the flow. I, Haruaki Fusaishi, am the snake. I informed them without hesitation. I investigated Takumi Muro and Chikamochi Kamoshida. Takumi Muro is a human, and Chikamochi Kamoshida is a wolf. What was that? Mochi is a wolf. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Naturally, there was much commotion and chaos over my sudden announcement.
Wait, Chikamochi is a wolf? That's not impossible, but why did you investigate him?
Yeah, besides, didn't you already say you didn't have a guardian?
I didn't say anything back then because there was a high probability I would have been killed if I'd revealed myself. Obviously, I knew Mamiya was lying about being the snake, but none of you would have had any idea. If we'd both survived, the spider wouldn't know which of us to protect, so I couldn't guarantee my safety. If I had said something, the wolves would have had the perfect opportunity to find and kill the real snake.
Oh, I see. Take this seriously, Mochi. Don't you get it? You're being accused of being a wolf.
That's true. It's probably because I already know I'm not a wolf. Which means that Hassan would be the real wolf here, I guess.
I suppose that idea makes sense, but if Mamiya was a wolf, would another wolf really try to play a snake again? I still don't know if the journal lady was a wolf. Hanzo tried fighting back. You can't tell with these city folk. Whether she was a wolf or whatever, maybe she went out wanting to die. Shall I take that as a sign of support for Chikamochi Kamoshida? His silence was not primarily out of doubt for me, but just the same old habit of his. I believe I was asked why I looked into him. The reason is because he wasn't acting like himself. He's normally sharper than this, and not the type who keeps quiet about his ideas. Yet this time he's chosen his words quite carefully, almost like he's saying he can't act on his intuition.
You talk like you've seen me do that before.
See, this was exactly the part of him that scared me. That was merely my opinion and the observation that led me to investigate you. That's all. Please don't read too deeply into it.
I will. If you've known about us for a while, maybe you're a spy or something sent by the village head.
There's also your odd tendency to be aggressive toward just me that caused me to suspect you, like just now. I took a peek at everyone's faces. Yasunaga was staring at the ground, lost in thought. Takumi was bewildered, as he should be. Fusaishi, are you saying Chikamochi killed Haru? Kanzu's eyes widened. Apparently he'd finally understood that a suspected wolf could be the one who'd killed his granddaughter. Yes, that would be the case.
As if. I care about Haru and Yasun more than anything else. Sorry to Richan and the others, but I really don't care about Shinai, the rules, or the feast. So how could someone like that kill Haru?
If you truly are mad, then you have motive enough. After all, mad people can treasure the loved ones whether they're alive or dead. It makes no difference to them.
True. Cut it out, Mochi. Did you really...
This is a pain. Hey, Hassan, I'm no good with this kind of stuff, so go a little easy on me, will you?
Sorry, but I can't let my guard down around you. I've learned well over the past few days that your brain is on a different wavelength from everyone else's.
Yasu, don't we have any proof Mochi didn't do it?
You should have already realized it, but no, I don't. Don't you have anything, Mochi?
Sorry, I didn't plan that far ahead. But do you really want to suspect me? Chikamochi does seem to be acting the same as always. But even if he was given the role of a wolf, I can easily see him maintaining his presence of mind.
And his stance is essentially to not think for himself. He's just followed Yasunaga and voted for Nosato each time so far. Fortunately for him, his disposition wasn't suspected, but I actually think it was a pretty cunning way to act. So long as someone Yasunaga didn't want to view as an enemy was a wolf, that wolf could stay safe by following his lead. Yasunaga is a monkey and therefore definitely human. To leave the vote to him is the same thing as having a wolf give up their vote entirely. But if Chikamochi Kamoshida were to stay that way only to suddenly vote for someone else, we'd just dismiss it as him acting on a whim. In the end, he was in a position where he could vote freely without attracting suspicion.
Yeah, you're relentless. I don't really have anything to say, so staying quiet makes me look fishy.
That's just the feast of the Yomi Purge.
Then why not just hang me?
Mochi, please, say something, anything.
Tell us you're not a wolf. I'm not a wolf. Look at me. Now come on, Yasun. You know I'm not the type who looks others in the eye when talking.
I don't even look at other people, he said with a smile. The vote was held afterwards. Yasunaga abstained from voting. Chiemi, Kaori, Kanzo, and Mochi all voted for me, while the rest voted for Mochi, sealing his fate. Wait, Chiemi, Kaori, Kanzo. Okay. Hey, Yasun. Don't cry. I'm sorry, Mochi. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. Hey, no need to be sorry. I've done some bad things. Does that mean I'm not a wolf? I just didn't have what it took to beat Hassan. Don't leave me. Without you or Haru, I'll be all alone. You got Mami, Kaori, and Yoshi, don't you? When it comes to them, No, forget it. What, you want to kiss her or something? Cut it out, idiot. Sorry. These are my last moments, and I still don't know what to do in times like these. Okay, do it, Yasun. Rise not. Rise not. Yasunaga pushed forward. Shikamochi Kamoshida fell into the mist, and the rope went taut. Mochi. Everyone stood there frozen in place while I headed for the plaza. I felt sick. Hey, Fuzashi. Takumi caught up with me. He really was a wolf, wasn't he? No doubt about it. But yes, he died as a human to the very end. I kept getting the urge to tell him to quit playing the victim and glorifying this. I wanted to tell Yasunaga that this was the guy who'd killed the girl who was like his own sister and smile like nothing was wrong. But what good would that have done me? It would probably be Mamiya all over again. The shock Yasunaga will feel when it all is revealed will be unfathomable. There was nothing else I could do. Sounds like you're really fretting over this. Sorry. Don't be. I'm a member of Yasumizu too. I will fulfill my duties as a snake while bearing the responsibility of Mochi's death to the very end. Thanks. It was good I'd gotten Takumi on my side, but as a whole it didn't feel like any of this had gone well. It left a really bad taste in my mouth. After that, I lost my job at the kitchen. Well, I hadn't exactly lost it, but since Kaori had voted for me, I was restraining myself. Yoshitsugu took over the work while I secluded myself in my hut. It was Takumi who suggested it. He said it was best I watched out for any potential attacks now that it was out I was the snake. He also took over testing the food for poison. I remembered what he said. If the spider is still alive, I've said they should protect you. If you're telling the truth, then there's just one wolf left. I want to settle this as quickly as possible. So I told him I'd do everything I could. It felt like Takumi and I had grown rather close, and no, not in a way that would make BL fangirls squeal with joy. I gratefully took my food and was happy to get away from the melancholy atmosphere that lingered after Mochi's death. Takumi was right. Just one wolf was left. And from my point of view, I had 5 candidates left. One day may not have been enough to corner them. Did I have any ways to ensure I could end it tomorrow? No. This was a problem. For now, I'd investigate who I considered the most suspect. As long as the spider protected me, the rest would be a war of attrition. In that case, I had to aim to end it tomorrow. However, I never woke up after that night. Why? What had happened to me? I didn't even know. I felt not even the slightest bit of pain or suffering in my deep slumber. But like the dense mist outside, my sleep appeared to have engulfed everything and become a shroud not of this world. Did the spider not protect me? In the end, the loser wasn't even allowed to entertain that thought. Yep. Apparently, the spider did not protect me, indeed. Alright. That is just how it is. It's a game of trust, essentially. And the spider did not trust me. so they didn't protect me. Which would, in turn, mean the spider is probably Kanzo? Who was it? It was Kao. The ones who voted for... or Chiemi. Kanzo or Chiemi, but Chiemi... Or Yasunaga. That, I think, is also... No, he's a monkey. What am I talking about? No, I think it's Kanzo or Chiemi. Okay. Interesting. Well, we'll find out more next time. We'll probably go back to the point where we can investigate on the second day, and we'll investigate Kyonosuke. But yeah, we'll do that next time. So for now, I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for doing so, and I will see you all next time. Till then, bye-bye.